My husband was streaming on Twitch and started rating his viewers' girlfriends' photos, then included me and called me mid at best. Honestly, guys, I could do way better, but she's convenient for now. So, I logged in and donated $10 with a message: "Hi honey. Since I'm just mid, I'll be taking half of everything in the divorce. Thanks for the evidence. P.S. Your lawyer will contact you soon." The chat went crazy as he realized what just happened. His face went white when he saw my username. Now he's blowing up my phone, desperate. I was just joking for the stream. Please don't actually divorce me over this. You know that feeling when your whole world comes crashing down in the span of 30 seconds? Yeah, well, buckle up because that's exactly what happened to me on a Tuesday night that started like any other. I'm Victoria Carter, and up until that moment, I thought I had the perfect marriage. 5 years with Matthew, my college sweetheart who I'd followed across 3 states for his career. We had this cute little house, 2 cats, and what I believed was an unshakable bond. Boy, was I wrong. So there I was, coming home from my evening yoga class, keys jingling as I unlocked the front door. The house was weirdly quiet except for Matthew's voice drifting from his gaming setup upstairs. Now, my husband had been streaming on Twitch for about 6 months, trying to build an audience for his gaming content. I'd been nothing but supportive, even helped him set up his lighting and bought him that fancy microphone for his birthday. But something in his tone that night made me pause at the bottom of the stairs. He was laughing in this way that made my stomach twist. You know that laugh? The one that sounds forced and performative? I crept up quietly, not wanting to interrupt his stream, but curiosity got the better of me. "Alright chat, let's see what we've got here," Matthew was saying, his voice carrying that fake enthusiasm streamers use. "Oh, Nicholas_gaming_pro wants me to rate his girlfriend's photo. Dude, she's definitely an 8 out of 10. You're punching above your weight class there, buddy." I froze on the landing. What was he doing? The chat was going wild. I could hear the constant ping of notifications from his computer. Matthew was eating it up, his voice getting more animated with each comment. Okay, next one. Ryan_Destroyer says his girl is the hottest in chat. Let me see. Oh wow, she's gorgeous. Easy 9 out of 10, maybe even a 10 on a good day. You better lock that down, Ryan. My hands were shaking as I realized what was happening. My husband was literally rating other men's girlfriends on his stream like they were products at an auction. The disgust was building in my throat, but I couldn't look away from the train wreck unfolding in our spare bedroom. This is getting good, chat. Keep the photos coming. I'm feeling generous with my ratings tonight. Have you ever had one of those moments where you know you should walk away, but you're frozen in place like a deer in headlights? That was me, standing in my own hallway, listening to my husband objectify women for the entertainment of his viewers. But then it got worse. So much worse. "Oh, hold up everyone," Matthew's voice took on a mocking tone that I'd never heard before. "Looks like we've got a special guest photo here. Chat, meet my wife Victoria." My blood turned to ice. He was showing my picture to his stream. Now, I know you guys are going to expect me to be biased here, but I'm going to keep it real with you. She's mid at best. Honestly guys, I could do way better, but she's convenient for now. She does the laundry, pays half the bills, and doesn't ask too many questions about where I am on weekends. The laughter that followed felt like a physical blow. Not just Matthew's cruel chuckle, but the sound of chat notifications going absolutely insane. I could practically hear his viewers eating up every word. I mean, don't get me wrong, he continued, clearly enjoying himself, she's not hideous or anything. But when you see what's out there, what these other guys are pulling. Yeah, I definitely settled. Big time. I've never felt betrayal like that in my entire life. It was like someone had reached into my chest and ripped out my heart while it was still beating. 5 years of marriage, and this was what he really thought of me? This was how he talked about me when I wasn't around? The chat was exploding with laughing emojis and comments I couldn't fully make out, but I caught enough to know they were having a field day with my humiliation. Some viewers were even asking for more photos of me to confirm the rating. "Nah, that's enough of my wife for tonight," Matthew said dismissively. "Let's get back to the good stuff. Who's next?" I stumbled backward, my hand clamped over my mouth to keep from making any noise. My vision was blurring with tears, but underneath the heartbreak, something else was building. Something hot and dangerous and completely focused. Rage. Pure, crystalline rage. I practically ran to our bedroom, grabbed my laptop, and with shaking fingers, created a Twitch account. It took me maybe 3 minutes to set up Victoriac_truth as my username. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears as I navigated to Matthew's stream. There he was, my husband of 5 years, still going strong with his disgusting rating game. The viewer count showed 127 people watching him humiliate women, including his own wife. The chat was moving so fast I could barely read individual messages, but the tone was clear. They were loving every second of this degrading spectacle. "This is great content, guys," Matthew was saying, clearly energized by the attention. "We should make this a regular thing. Wife rating Wednesdays or something. What do you think, chat?" The enthusiasm in the responses made me sick. But it also gave me an idea. A beautiful, perfect idea. Do you know what they say about revenge being a dish best served cold? Well, sometimes it's better served scalding hot, right in the moment when your target least expects it. I clicked on the donation button and selected the $10 option. In the message box, I typed carefully, making sure every word was perfect. "Hi honey. Since I'm just mid, I'll be taking half of everything in the divorce. Thanks for the evidence. P.S. Your lawyer will contact you soon." I hit send and watched the donation notification appear on his screen. The transformation was instant and absolutely beautiful. Matthew's face went from smug confidence to confused recognition to pure, undiluted terror in the space of about 3 seconds. His mouth fell open as he read the message, and I watched the color drain from his face completely. "Oh. Oh no," he whispered, his voice barely audible over his microphone. But the chat had seen it too. And they were going absolutely mental. "Yo, his wife is in chat. She heard everything. Divorce incoming. R.I.P. Matthew's marriage. That's what you get, bro." The notifications were coming so fast they were creating a solid wall of text. Matthew was just staring at the screen, his mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. For a man who'd been so eloquent in his cruelty just moments before, he was remarkably speechless now. "Victoria?" he said weakly, as if saying my name might somehow undo what had just happened. "Victoria, are you watching?" I donated another $10. "Oh, I'm not just watching anymore, sweetheart. I'm participating. Tell the chat how convenient I am now." The reaction was explosive. His viewer count was climbing rapidly, word was spreading across the platform about the stream where a guy got caught rating his own wife. People were sharing clips, tagging friends, turning Matthew's humiliation into viral content. But here's the thing about humiliation, it cuts both ways. While Matthew was sitting there in stunned silence, I was already 10 steps ahead, my mind sharp and focused despite the emotional hurricane raging inside me. I opened another browser tab and started researching divorce attorneys. Not tomorrow, not next week, but right now. Because when opportunity knocks, you don't ask it to wait while you think things over. "Chat, I need to end the stream," Matthew stammered, reaching for his mouse. "Don't you dare," I typed in another donation. "Your viewers deserve to see how this story ends. After all, you were giving them such good content before." His hand froze over the mouse. The chat was completely out of control now, with people begging him not to end the stream, promising to subscribe, offering donations to keep the drama going. His viewer count had tripled. "Victoria, please," he said directly to the camera, his voice cracking. "I was just joking around. It's not real. It's just entertainment." Another donation, 5 years of marriage, and I'm just entertainment? Good to know where I stand. The chat was eating it up. Comments were flying by so fast they were just a blur, but I caught enough to know that public opinion was firmly on my side. Matthew had played himself, and his own audience was turning against him. "This is the best content I've ever seen on Twitch," someone wrote. "Wife gets revenge in real time." "Matthew's getting destroyed and he deserves it," said another. "Team Victoria all the way." Have you ever watched someone's entire world collapse in real time? It's simultaneously satisfying and terrifying. Matthew was experiencing the full consequences of his actions, living in front of an audience that was growing by the minute. But I wasn't done. Not even close. I called my sister Lauren while keeping Matthew's stream open on my laptop. She answered on the second ring. Hey Victoria, what's up? Lauren, I need you to do me a favor. Go to Twitch and search for Matthew_gamer_MD. You need to see this. Why? What's going on? Just do it. Now. And record everything. While Lauren was pulling up the stream, I was already on the phone with my bank, having them freeze our joint accounts. The customer service representative was incredibly understanding when I explained that I'd just discovered my husband publicly humiliating me online and needed to protect my assets. Mrs. Carter, I'm so sorry this is happening to you, she said. I'm putting a hold on all joint accounts effective immediately. Only you will have access until this is resolved. Thank you so much, I replied, watching Matthew's stream where he was now trying to do damage control. Guys, this is all a big misunderstanding, he was saying to his camera, sweat visible on his forehead. My wife has a really weird sense of humor. She's probably just messing around. I donated again, messing around like when you said you could do better than me? That kind of messing around? The chat exploded again. Matthew looked like he was about to cry. Victoria, please stop. We can talk about this privately. This isn't fair. Fair? I donated again. Was it fair when you called me mid at best in front of 127 strangers? Was it fair when you said I was just convenient? We're way past fair, Matthew. My phone buzzed. Lauren. Oh my, Victoria. Are you seeing this? He's completely falling apart. I'm not just seeing it, I'm orchestrating it, I said, surprised by how calm I sounded. How fast can you get over here? I'm already in my car. This is insane. The chat is going absolutely wild. People are screen recording everything. Perfect. The more evidence, the better. I hung up with Lauren and made another call, this time to the best divorce attorney in the city. I'd found her website during my research, and the reviews were stellar. Natalie Bennett, known for her aggressive representation of women in high-profile divorces. Bennett Law Firm, this is Natalie. Ms. Bennett, this is Victoria Carter. I need to file for divorce immediately, and I have some very compelling evidence of my husband's true feelings about our marriage. I can see you tonight if it's urgent. What kind of evidence are we talking about? He's currently streaming live on Twitch, and he just spent 10 minutes telling his viewers that I'm mid at best, and that he could do way better. Oh, and he said I'm just convenient. All of this is being recorded by hundreds of people as we speak. There was a pause. Are you serious? Dead serious. I've already frozen our joint accounts, and I'm looking at his stream right now where he's having a complete meltdown because he realized I heard everything. Mrs. Carter, I'll be honest with you, in 20 years of practice, I've never had a case with evidence this clear-cut and this public. Can you be in my office in an hour? I'll be there. I hung up and looked back at Matthew's stream. His viewer count was now over 500 and climbing. The chat was still going crazy, but now people were starting to share legal advice, relationship stories, and overwhelming support for me. This is the most justified divorce I've ever seen, someone wrote. Matthew really thought he was safe talking trash about his wife, said another. Big mistake. Victoria, if you're reading this, you deserve so much better. The validation from complete strangers was healing something inside me that I didn't even know was broken. Matthew was now trying a different approach. Look, everyone, I really messed up here. I said some things I didn't mean, and I hurt the person I love most in the world. Victoria, if you're still watching, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I donated one more time, sorry doesn't ring the bell, Matthew. See you in court. And with that, I closed my laptop and headed to my car. The drive to Natalie Bennett's office gave me time to process what had just happened. In the span of 30 minutes, I'd gone from a woman who thought she had a happy marriage to someone who was filing for divorce with the most public evidence of betrayal I'd ever heard of. But you know what? I felt lighter than I had in years. All those little moments over the past few months suddenly made sense, the way Matthew had been staying out later, the way he'd been dismissive when I tried to talk about our future, the way he'd stopped complimenting me or showing any real affection. I'd thought we were going through a rough patch. Turns out, he'd just been settling for someone he considered convenient. Natalie Bennett's office was in a sleek downtown building, all glass and steel that screamed success. She met me in the lobby herself, a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and an expression that suggested she'd seen every type of divorce drama imaginable. Victoria Carter? She extended her hand. I have to say, your case is already making waves. My paralegal showed me the clips that are circulating online. Your husband's stream is apparently trending on Twitter. It's trending? I asked, not sure if I should be horrified or pleased. Oh yes. #MatthewGamerMD is blowing up. People are calling it the divorce heard round the world. The internet loves a good revenge story, especially when the person getting revenge is clearly the wrong party. We went up to her office, and Natalie pulled up several social media platforms on her computer. The clips were everywhere: Matthew's initial comments about me, my donations, his panicked reaction, the whole thing. The comments were overwhelmingly supportive of me and absolutely brutal toward Matthew. This is actually incredible evidence, Natalie said, pulling up a legal pad. Your husband publicly stated that he settled for you, that you're convenient, and that he could do better. In front of hundreds of witnesses who recorded everything. Most divorce cases struggle with proving emotional abuse or establishing grounds for divorce. You've got it all documented in 4K video. So what happens now? I asked. Now? Now we make sure you get everything you're entitled to. Your husband just gift-wrapped your case for us. His own words prove that he views this marriage as a transaction of convenience rather than a partnership of equals. That's going to play very well in court. We spent the next hour going through my assets, my contributions to the marriage, and the timeline of events. Natalie was thorough and professional, but I could tell she was also genuinely angry on my behalf. I have to ask, she said as we were wrapping up, how did you stay so calm during all of this? Most people would have been screaming or crying. I thought about it for a moment. Honestly? I think I was in shock at first. But then I realized that this was my chance to show Matthew exactly who he was dealing with. He thought I was just some convenient accessory to his life. I wanted to prove him wrong. Well, you certainly did that. The internet is calling you a hero. When I left Natalie's office, I felt like a completely different person than the woman who'd walked into my house 3 hours earlier. My phone had been buzzing constantly with texts and calls from friends and family who'd seen the clips online. Lauren was waiting for me when I got home, sitting on my porch with a bottle of wine and a huge grin. You magnificent, brilliant woman, she said, pulling me into a hug. I am so proud of you right now. It doesn't feel real yet, I admitted. This morning I was married. Tonight I'm filing for divorce and apparently going viral. Matthew's still streaming, Lauren said, pulling out her phone. He's been trying to do damage control for hours, but it's not working. His viewer count is over 1,000 now, but everyone's just there to watch him suffer. I looked at her phone screen. Matthew looked haggard, exhausted, and completely defeated. The confident, cruel man who'd been rating women like livestock was gone, replaced by someone who looked like he hadn't slept in days. He's been calling you nonstop, Lauren continued. He's also been trying to explain to his viewers that you're overreacting and that you'll calm down and forgive him. Overreacting? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. I'm just getting started. Do you want to know the beautiful thing about living in the digital age? Actions have consequences, and those consequences can spread faster than wildfire. By the time I woke up the next morning, Matthew's stream had been turned into compilation videos, reaction videos, and analysis pieces by dozens of content creators. My phone showed 247 missed calls from Matthew and 89 unread text messages. I scrolled through a few of them. Victoria, please call me back. I can explain everything. I was just trying to get views. I didn't mean any of it. The whole internet is attacking me. Please make it stop. I'll do anything. Anything. Just please don't go through with the divorce. I love you. I've always loved you. I was just being stupid. I deleted them all without responding. Instead, I called Natalie Bennett. Good morning, Victoria. I trust you slept well? Actually, I did. Better than I have in months. What's our next move? I've already filed the preliminary paperwork. Your husband should be served with divorce papers within the next 24 hours. I've also prepared a cease and desist letter regarding his attempts to contact you, given that you've expressed you don't want to communicate with him. Perfect. What about the financial side? With the joint accounts frozen and the evidence we have, I'm confident we can secure you a very favorable settlement. Your husband's public statements about the marriage being one of convenience rather than love actually work in our favor legally. And the house? Given that you've been contributing equally to the mortgage and utilities, and considering the circumstances of the divorce, I believe we can argue for you to retain the house. Especially since his streaming setup is there, and continuing to live there would require him to be constantly reminded of his, shall we say, poor decision-making. I spent the rest of the morning fielding calls from reporters, bloggers, and even a few podcast hosts who wanted to interview me about what was being called the Twitch divorce of the century. I turned them all down. This wasn't about fame or attention, it was about justice. But I did accept one call. From Isabella Foster, a journalist who specialized in stories about women overcoming betrayal and finding empowerment. Mrs. Carter, I know you're probably overwhelmed right now, but I wanted to reach out because I think your story could help other women who are in similar situations. What do you mean? You showed incredible strength and presence of mind in a moment of devastating betrayal. A lot of women stay silent when they're disrespected, especially when it happens in public. You didn't just stand up for yourself, you did it in a way that was brilliant and measured. I don't know if it was brilliant, I said. I was just angry. That's exactly why it was brilliant. You channeled that anger into action instead of letting it consume you. Do you have any idea how many women watched those clips and felt empowered to stand up for themselves? I hadn't thought about that. I'd been so focused on my own situation that I hadn't considered how it might affect others. I've been getting emails all morning from women who said your response gave them the courage to leave their own bad relationships, Isabella continued. You've become a symbol of not accepting disrespect, even when it comes from someone you love. That afternoon, Matthew showed up at the house. I watched him through the window as he sat in his car for 20 minutes, apparently working up the courage to approach the door. When he finally knocked, I didn't answer. Victoria, I know you're in there, he called through the door. Please, just give me 5 minutes to explain. I called Natalie instead. He's at the house, violating the cease and desist order. I'll have the police there in 10 minutes. Don't engage with him at all. True to her word, a police cruiser pulled up shortly after. I watched through the window as the officers explained to Matthew that he needed to leave immediately and that any further contact with me should go through my attorney. The look on his face when he realized I was serious about this was almost satisfying. Almost. That evening, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Victoria? This is Chloe Williams. I'm Matthew's cousin. I remembered Chloe from family gatherings. She was a few years younger than me and had always seemed sweet, if a bit quiet. Hi Chloe. I'm guessing you've seen the news. I have. And I wanted to call because I think you should know that this isn't the first time. My blood went cold. What do you mean? Matthew's been talking about you like that for months. At family dinners, at parties, whenever you weren't around. He's been saying you were holding him back, that he could do better, that he was only staying with you because it was easier than starting over. The betrayal hit me all over again, fresh and sharp. Why didn't you tell me? I should have. I know I should have. But I kept thinking maybe he was just going through a phase, or maybe he was drunk, or maybe he didn't really mean it. I'm so sorry, Victoria. I should have been a better friend to you. Chloe, it's not your fault. But thank you for telling me now. There's something else. Matthew's been. I don't know how to say this. He's been flirting with other women. Pretty openly. At Josh's birthday party last month, he was all over Nathan's girlfriend while you were in the bathroom. People noticed. Each revelation was like another nail in the coffin of my marriage. I'd thought Matthew's stream was a moment of poor judgment, but it was actually just the public expression of how he'd been feeling and acting for months. I'm really sorry this happened to you, Chloe continued. But I'm also really proud of how you handled it. You didn't let him get away with it. After I hung up with Chloe, I sat in my living room and really let myself feel the full weight of what had happened. Not just the stream, but the months of secret disrespect, the public humiliation, the casual cruelty. But alongside the hurt, there was something else growing stronger, relief. Relief that I'd found out who Matthew really was before I'd wasted more years of my life. Relief that I'd handled the situation with dignity instead of falling apart. Relief that I was strong enough to walk away from someone who didn't value me. The next morning brought more surprises. I woke up to find that someone had started a GoFundMe for my legal fees. I hadn't asked for it, didn't even know who'd created it, but it had already raised over $15,000 from people who wanted to support me. The description read, Victoria Carter showed incredible strength and grace when dealing with public humiliation from her husband. Let's help her get the legal representation she deserves. I was overwhelmed. Complete strangers were supporting me, believing in me, cheering me on. It was the opposite of what Matthew had done. Instead of tearing me down, these people were building me up. But the biggest surprise came when I checked my email and found a message from a talent agency. Dear Mrs. Carter, we've been following your story and are impressed by your composure and strength in handling such a difficult situation. We'd like to discuss potential opportunities for you in media and public speaking. Your story has resonated with millions of people, and we believe you could help others going through similar situations. I stared at the email for a long time. 6 months ago, I'd been someone who avoided public speaking at all costs. Now I was being offered a platform to share my story with the world. Maybe Matthew had been right about one thing: I was convenient. But not in the way he'd meant it. I was convenient for him because I'd been willing to stay small, to not rock the boat, to accept less than I deserved. Those days were over. I called the talent agency and set up a meeting. That afternoon, I got a call from Natalie with an update. Matthew's attorney contacted me. He wants to settle out of court. What kind of settlement? He's offering you 60% of all marital assets, the house, and a lump sum payment for emotional distress. It's a very generous offer, Victoria. Much more than you typically see in a divorce settlement. He's scared, I realized. He knows how bad this looks. He should be scared. With the evidence we have and the public attention this case has received, he could lose much more if we go to trial. His attorney is smart to push for a settlement. What do you think I should do? I think you should consider it carefully. It's a good offer, and it would allow you to close this chapter of your life quickly and move forward. But the decision is entirely yours. I told Natalie I'd think about it and call her back. That evening, I did something I hadn't done in months. I went out with friends. Lauren had organized a girls' night, and for the first time since the whole thing started, I felt like I could breathe. So what are you going to do? Asked Megan, one of my college friends who'd driven in from out of state when she heard what happened. I'm going to take the settlement, I said. I want to move on with my life, not spend the next 2 years fighting in court. That's probably smart, said Abigail, another friend. You've already made your point. Matthew's been publicly humiliated, his reputation is destroyed, and you're getting a great financial settlement. You won. It doesn't feel like winning, I admitted. It feels like, I don't know. Like surviving. Sometimes surviving is winning, Lauren said quietly. You could have let him break you. Instead, you broke free. Have you ever had one of those moments where you realize your whole life is about to change? Not gradually, not eventually, but right now, in this moment? That's what I felt sitting there with my friends, understanding that Matthew's betrayal had actually been a gift. A terrible, painful gift that had shown me exactly who I was when everything was on the line. I called Natalie the next morning and told her to accept the settlement. Excellent choice, she said. I'll have the paperwork ready by this afternoon. You'll be officially divorced within 30 days. That fast? When both parties want it over quickly and the terms are agreed upon, yes. Matthew's in no position to drag this out. What about his streaming career? What streaming career? He's lost thousands of followers, several sponsors have dropped him, and Twitch is reviewing his account for potential violations. He's essentially unemployable in that space now. I should have felt bad about that. A year ago, I would have felt bad about that. But now? Now I felt like justice had been served. The settlement was finalized 3 weeks later. I walked out of the courthouse with a check for $180,000, ownership of our house, and my freedom. Matthew wasn't there, his attorney had handled everything, but I wasn't done yet. Remember how I mentioned that talent agency? Well, it turns out they weren't the only ones interested in my story. Within 2 months of the divorce being finalized, I'd been offered book deals, speaking engagements, and even a development deal for a limited series about my experience. I chose carefully. I worked with Isabella Foster, the journalist who'd called me, to write a book about recognizing and responding to emotional abuse and disrespect in relationships. I started speaking at women's conferences about finding strength in moments of betrayal. And you know what? I was good at it. Really good. Turns out that being convenient had taught me to be adaptable, resilient, and empathetic, qualities that served me well in my new career. 6 months after the divorce, I was making more money than I'd ever made in my life, I was helping other women find their voices, and I was genuinely happy for the first time in years. But the best part? The absolute best part came when I got a text from an unknown number. "Victoria, this is Andrew Carter. I'm Matthew's younger brother. I wanted to reach out because I think you should know that Matthew's been spiraling pretty badly since the divorce. He's been calling everyone in the family, trying to get them to reach out to you on his behalf. He's convinced that if he can just talk to you, he can fix everything." I remembered Andrew. He was the only member of Matthew's family who'd always been genuinely kind to me. "I'm not interested in fixing anything," I texted back. "I'm happy now." "I know. And I'm glad. But I wanted to give you a heads up that he's been talking about showing up at your events. He's been following your speaking schedule online." That was concerning. I forwarded the message to Natalie, who immediately filed for a restraining order. But Matthew never showed up to any of my events. Maybe he finally realized that I was serious about moving on, or maybe his family convinced him to leave me alone. Either way, I was free to build my new life without looking over my shoulder. A year after the divorce, I was invited to speak at a major conference about women's empowerment. The venue was huge, over 2,000 people. As I stood backstage, waiting for my introduction, I thought about where I'd been exactly 1 year ago. I'd been a woman who thought she had to settle for being called convenient. Now I was someone who helped other women realize they deserved better. The host introduced me, and I walked out onto the stage to thunderous applause. As I looked out at the sea of faces, I saw women of all ages, all backgrounds, all looking at me with hope and admiration. A year ago, I began, my husband told hundreds of strangers that I was mid at best, and that he could do better. He said I was convenient. And you know what? He was right about one thing, I was convenient. But not in the way he meant. The audience was completely silent, hanging on every word. I was convenient because I accepted less than I deserved. I was convenient because I didn't rock the boat. I was convenient because I made his life easier while he made mine smaller. I paused, looking out at all those faces. But here's what he didn't understand: convenient doesn't mean weak. And the moment he tried to humiliate me, he learned exactly how inconvenient I could be. The laughter and applause that followed was deafening. So to every woman out there who's been called convenient, who's been told she should be grateful for scraps, who's been made to feel like she's not enough, I want you to know that you are not mid at best. You are not a consolation prize. You are not someone's backup plan. I could see women in the audience wiping away tears, nodding, some even standing up. You are worthy of love, respect, and partnership. And if someone can't see that, then they're the one who's settling. Not you. The standing ovation lasted for 5 minutes. After the conference, I was approached by a young woman named Catherine Davis. She couldn't have been more than 25, and she was crying. "Miss Carter, I've been with my boyfriend for 3 years, and he treats me exactly like your husband treated you. He's always putting me down, telling me I'm lucky he stays with me, making me feel like I'm not good enough. I've been too scared to leave because I thought maybe he was right." She took a shaky breath. "But listening to you tonight, I realized something. I'm not the problem. He is. And I deserve better." "Yes, you do," I said, giving her a hug. "You absolutely do." She left that night with resources, support, and most importantly, the knowledge that she had the power to change her situation. That's when I knew that Matthew's betrayal had been worth it. Not because I'd gotten revenge, not because I'd won the divorce, but because his cruelty had been transformed into something that could help other women. Do you know what the most beautiful form of revenge is? It's not destruction, it's transformation. It's taking the worst thing someone does to you and turning it into something that makes the world a little bit better. Matthew thought he was rating me on a scale of 1 to 10. He gave me a 5, maybe a 6 on a good day. But he was wrong about one crucial thing: I wasn't his to rate. I never was. I belong to myself. I get to decide my own worth. And I've decided that I'm not a number on anyone's scale. I'm immeasurable. 3 years later, I'm still speaking, still writing, still helping women find their voices. I've been in a relationship for 8 months with a man named David Bennett, no relation to my lawyer, who thinks I'm extraordinary and tells me so every day. He's never once made me feel like I'm convenient. Instead, he makes me feel chosen. And Matthew? Well, last I heard, he was working at a call center and living with his parents. His streaming career never recovered from that night. The internet has a long memory, and Matthew_gamer_MD became synonymous with public humiliation and marital betrayal. Every time he tried to rebuild his online presence, someone would inevitably post clips from that infamous stream. But here's the thing: I don't feel sorry for him. Not even a little bit. He made his choice that night when he decided to humiliate me for entertainment. He chose to value the approval of strangers over the dignity of his wife. He chose to be cruel when he thought no one who mattered was watching. The last time I saw him was completely by accident. I was at a coffee shop in our old neighborhood, meeting with a publisher about my second book, when he walked in. He looked older, tired, smaller somehow. Our eyes met across the crowded cafe, and I saw him freeze. For a moment, I thought he might approach me. Maybe try one last time to explain, to apologize, to somehow undo what he'd done. But instead, he just stared at me for a long moment, turned around, and walked out. I think that's when it finally hit him, the finality of what he'd lost. Not just me, but the life we'd built together, the future we'd planned, the partnership he'd thrown away for a few laughs from strangers on the internet. You know what the strangest part is? Sometimes I actually feel grateful to him. Not for the pain he caused, but for the gift he inadvertently gave me. His betrayal forced me to discover who I really was underneath all that convenience. It pushed me to find my voice, my strength, my worth. Without that horrible night, I might have spent the rest of my life accepting less than I deserved. I might have continued shrinking myself to fit into his idea of what I should be. I might have stayed convenient forever. Instead, I became inconvenient in the best possible way. My story went viral for a few weeks, then faded as the internet moved on to the next drama. But the impact lasted. I still get messages from women who tell me that watching me stand up for myself gave them the courage to leave toxic relationships, demand better treatment, or simply recognize their own worth. That's legacy. That's what matters. Matthew wanted to make me feel small that night. He wanted his viewers to see me as disposable, forgettable, mid at best. But in trying to diminish me, he actually revealed something beautiful: that I was anything but disposable. I was irreplaceable, unforgettable, and worth fighting for. Even if I had to be the one doing the fighting. So here I am, 3 years later, living proof that sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even, it's getting better. It's becoming so much more than the person who hurt you ever imagined you could be. And if Matthew ever watches my interviews, reads my books, or sees the life I've built from the ashes of our marriage, I hope he remembers that night when he called me mid at best. Because now he knows the truth: he wasn't rating me. He was revealing himself. And the rating? Well, let's just say the internet made their judgment very clear. As for me? I'm done being rated, done being convenient, done being anything other than exactly who I choose to be. And that person? She's absolutely extraordinary. The end came full circle 6 months ago when I received an email that made me laugh out loud. It was from a streaming platform, not Twitch, but a competitor, asking if I'd be interested in hosting a show about empowerment and standing up for yourself. We think your story would resonate with our audience, the email read. We'd love to discuss the possibility of the Victoria Carter Show, a platform where you could help others find their voice like you found yours. I'm still considering it. The irony is too perfect: the woman who was humiliated on a stream becoming a streaming success herself. But this time, instead of tearing people down, I'd be building them up. Matthew tried to make me internet famous for all the wrong reasons. Maybe it's time I became famous for all the right ones. After all, I've learned that being convenient isn't always a bad thing, as long as it's convenient for you, not for someone else. But there's something else I haven't told you yet. Something that happened just 2 weeks ago that brought everything full circle in the most unexpected way. I was in Chicago for a conference when I got a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Victoria? It's me. Matthew's voice was barely recognizable. Hoarse, shaky, completely stripped of the confidence he'd once carried. How did you get this number? I asked, already reaching for the hang-up button. Please don't hang up. I know I have no right to call you, but I need to tell you something. I need you to know that you what, Matthew? That you're sorry? That you didn't mean it? I've heard it all before. No, he said quietly. I need you to know that you were right. About everything. I paused. This wasn't the Matthew I remembered, the one who'd spent months trying to convince everyone that I was overreacting. I've been in therapy, he continued. Real therapy, not just anger management or couples counseling. I've been working with someone who specializes in narcissistic behavior patterns. Good for you, I said, but something in his tone made me keep listening. She made me watch the stream again. The whole thing. Made me sit there and listen to myself talk about you like you were. Like you were nothing. Like you weren't a human being with feelings. I could hear him crying on the other end of the line. Victoria, I destroyed the best thing that ever happened to me because I was so insecure about myself that I had to tear you down to feel better. And the worst part is, I convinced myself that it was just entertainment, just content, just anything but what it really was. Which was what? I found myself asking, despite every instinct telling me to end this conversation. Abuse. Emotional abuse. I was abusing you, and I was doing it publicly for the entertainment of strangers. The word hung between us like a confession he'd been carrying for years. The therapist helped me understand that rating you, calling you convenient, saying I could do better, that wasn't about you at all. It was about me trying to convince myself that I was worth something by making you worth less. Do you ever have moments where someone's pain is so raw, so genuine, that you can feel it through the phone? This was one of those moments. But here's the thing about growth. Recognizing your past trauma doesn't mean you have to re-traumatize yourself to help someone else heal. Matthew, I said gently but firmly, I'm glad you're getting help. I'm glad you're finally understanding what you did. But this conversation isn't for me, it's for you. And I can't be part of your healing process. I know, he whispered. I know you can't. I needed you to know that everything good that's happened to you since then? You earned it. Not because of what I did to you, but despite it. You were always extraordinary, Victoria. I was just too broken to see it. Take care of yourself, Matthew, I said, and this time when I hung up, it felt like closing a book rather than slamming a door. That conversation stayed with me for days. Not because I was reconsidering anything, my life was exactly where it should be. But because it reminded me of something important, healing isn't just about the person who was hurt. Sometimes the person who caused the hurt needs to heal too, even if that healing has to happen separately. The timing of Matthew's call was particularly interesting because I'd just signed a contract for something I never could have imagined 3 years ago. Netflix had approached me about developing a limited series based on my experience, but with a twist, it would follow multiple women whose stories of betrayal had gone viral, showing how they'd each transformed their pain into power. We want to call it Inconvenient Women, the producer had explained. Stories about women who refused to stay convenient for the people who underestimated them. The irony wasn't lost on me. Matthew's attempt to make me famous for being mid had actually made me famous for being magnificent. But perhaps the most satisfying development came when I received a package last month from someone I'd never expected to hear from again. Inside was a handwritten letter from Ryan Foster, one of the viewers from Matthew's original stream. Dear Mrs. Carter, it began. You probably don't remember me, but I was in Matthew's chat that night 3 years ago. I was one of the people laughing when he was rating women's photos. I was one of the people who thought it was just harmless fun. The letter continued, I want you to know that watching what happened to you changed my entire perspective on how I talk about women, how I think about women, and how I treat my own girlfriend. That night, you didn't just stand up for yourself, you held up a mirror that showed me exactly who I was becoming. He went on to explain that he'd broken up with a girlfriend he'd submitted a photo of, not because of anything she'd done, but because he realized their entire relationship was based on him rating her worth rather than appreciating her as a person. I'm now engaged to an amazing woman named Lucy Williams, and I can honestly say that your response that night taught me what real respect looks like. I wanted to thank you for making me a better man, even though that was never your responsibility." Enclosed with the letter was a wedding invitation. I stared at that invitation for a long time, thinking about the ripple effects of that one night. Not just on my life, but on the lives of people I'd never met, people whose names I didn't even know. How many women had found the courage to leave bad relationships because they saw me refuse to accept disrespect? How many men had reconsidered their own behavior because they witnessed the consequences of Matthew's actions? How many people had learned that words have power, that public humiliation has real-world consequences, that treating people as entertainment can destroy lives? I decided to attend Ryan and Lucy's wedding. Not because I forgave him for his part in that night, but because I wanted to see firsthand how transformation looks when it's genuine. The wedding was beautiful, small and intimate, held in a garden outside the city. When Ryan introduced me to Lucy, she hugged me immediately. "You're the woman who saved my relationship," she said with tears in her eyes. Ryan told me everything about that night, about how he used to think about women, about how watching you stand up for yourself made him realize he needed to change. During the reception, Ryan pulled me aside. "I know I don't have the right to ask this," he said, "but I've been wondering for 3 years, do you regret it? Any of it?" "Regret what?" I asked. "Standing up for myself? Refusing to be humiliated? Building a life that makes me happy?" "No, I mean, do you ever regret that it had to happen that way? So publicly, so permanently?" I thought about his question for a moment, watching the other wedding guests dancing and laughing. "You know what I regret?" I finally said. "I regret that it took public humiliation for me to realize my own worth. I regret that I spent years accepting less than I deserved. I regret that I ever thought someone else's opinion of me mattered more than my own." I paused, watching Lucy spin around the dance floor in her wedding dress, radiant with joy. But do I regret the way it happened? No. Because if it had happened privately, if Matthew had just said those things to me during an argument, I might have convinced myself he didn't mean it. I might have stayed. I might have spent the rest of my life being convenient. And now? Now I'm inconvenient in all the best ways. I ask difficult questions. I demand respect. I refuse to shrink myself to make other people comfortable. And I help other women do the same. Ryan nodded slowly. "I'm glad. And I'm sorry it took something so painful to get you there." "Pain isn't always a bad thing," I said. "Sometimes it's information. Sometimes it's motivation. And sometimes, if you're really lucky, it's transformation." As I drove home from the wedding, I thought about how different my life looked from the rearview mirror. 3 years ago, I'd been someone who measured her worth by how little trouble she caused. Now I was someone who measured her worth by how much good trouble she could create. The speaking engagement circuit had introduced me to women from all walks of life, all with their own stories of betrayal and transformation. There was Zoe Davis, whose husband had been cheating with her sister for 2 years before she found out through a mistakenly sent text. Instead of falling apart, she'd started a support group that now had chapters in 12 states. There was Abigail Foster, whose business partner had stolen her company's entire client list to start a competing firm. She'd sued, won, and then used the settlement to launch a nonprofit helping women start their own businesses. And there was Megan Carter, no relation, despite sharing my last name, whose entire family had sided with her abusive ex-husband during their divorce. She'd moved across the country, changed her name, and become a domestic violence counselor who'd helped hundreds of women escape dangerous situations. Every woman I met had the same thing in common: they'd all reached a breaking point where they decided that being uncomfortable was better than being disrespected. Isn't it interesting how the worst moments of our lives can become the foundation for our greatest achievements? Matthew thought he was ending something that night when he called me mid at best. Instead, he was beginning something he never could have imagined. My second book comes out next month. It's called Inconvenient, A Guide to Refusing What Doesn't Serve You. Pre-orders have already hit the bestseller list. The Netflix series starts filming in the fall. I'll be an executive producer, making sure the stories are told with dignity and truth rather than sensationalism. And next week, I'm giving the keynote address at a conference for young women entering the workforce. The title of my speech? Never be convenient for someone else's comfort. Matthew gave me a rating that night. He called me a 5, maybe a 6 on a good day. But ratings are just numbers, and numbers are just opinions, and opinions are just thoughts that someone decided to share. The only rating that matters is the one you give yourself. And I've decided I'm off the charts. And revenge? Well, sometimes the best revenge is living so well that your story becomes an inspiration instead of a cautionary tale. That's exactly what I did. And I'm just getting started.